Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with it another evening of fine and fantastic racing in the iRacing official GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT. And we're here once again on a fine Friday evening for a top split race for our entertainment action. And as all the drivers get ready to go racing today, it is of course week 11 of 12 in the 2025 season 1 of the iRacing calendar. And we are here in the United States of America for the one and only Detroit Grand Prix circuit at the Belle Isle Park. Located in the park from which the circuit takes its name, it's a bit of a far cry from downtown Detroit in the US state of Michigan, but the circuit has proven in previous years to be highly popular with the IndyCar Racing Championship. Being the place where there's been the host of double-header races over the course of the best part of a decade, the circuit was recently closed and indeed the racing was relocated to downtown Detroit as of 2024, but one thing that definitely has seen itself being stapled into the history books is that the Belle Isle Park circuit, consistent of 13 corners and 2.35 miles in length, is a circuit that's not easy and one to be travelled with softly. With its numerous road surface changes, very tight corners and limited straights, it's a circuit where track position and also keeping cool, calm and consistent will be absolutely equal and equivocal for you to be able to come home victorious, as that you may be the fastest driver out there, but if you can't keep it away from the walls and not let those road surface changes absolutely catch you out, then you may find yourself very quickly heading to the pits with a broken suspension and knowing the racers all come to a close, whereas the cool as a cucumber and more consistent drivers may find themselves seeing that checkered flag, then that sometimes to finish first you must finish. But will that be the case today as we get ready to go racing? We'll have to wait and see as we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side from the 1900 GMT or UTC top split. In the commentary booth you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And this broadcast is being brought to you live on YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX141TX. Alternatively, you can also look for the channel name of Paul Walsh. But as we get ready to go racing today, what is our schedule looking like? Our times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. As we can see, in just under 3 minutes time, we're making our way to the grid for our 45-minute race. But as we get set and ready to go racing, well, let's give a recap of the season so far and what we still got lying in wait. And as we can see, we're almost at the end of the Season 1 schedule for 2025. Last time out, we're in Italy at the Autodromo International Enzo Edino Ferrari. And well, what a cracking week of racing it was there on the straights and the chicanes. But today we're here in the United States of America for the Belle Isle Park circuit. And next week, in our final week of racing for Season 1, we make our way back to Italy for the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And well, the infamous Italian circuit, the Italian Temple of Speed, is certainly going to be one where all the drivers will be giving it their all to end their Season 1s on a high. But as we come on to today then, and as we can see, we are in the city of Detroit in Wayne County of the US city of Michigan, or the US state of Michigan, I should say, not the city, we're in the city of Detroit. And well, thank you to iRacing.com for their absolutely brilliant track maps that come with the fantastic simulator. And we can see the best part of what is 14 corners there, or 13 depending on how you want to label the corners up. But one thing that does stay the same is 2.35 miles in length of racing tarmac, and my goodness, is it a combination of different sheets of tarmac, indeed pieces of concrete, you name it, there's a whole mixture of material in there. And what it means is this is an incredibly bumpy circuit, and one where if you hit the curbs hard enough, you may find yourself being shaken about, but even on those road surface changes, it is very hard to be able to get it right precisely each and every lap, every time as you attack the circuit, and sometimes that calmer approach is absolutely key. But as we come into what is our rules before we go racing, of course we can't go racing without them. Setup wise, it's an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 50%, and in terms of our race, the grid is set by a closed qualifying session which is just underway currently and coming towards a close. The race shall commence via a rolling start following a formation lap, and drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and if they add that up to 25 instant points, they'll be disqualified from the race. But without further ado, let's come back to our circuit side pictures and to our drivers who are getting their last laps in, including none other than Michael Matthias right now, and indeed community representative for the official GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT. You'll find him in the official GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT Discord. Very friendly gentleman, I must say, and it's always good to see him out on circuit, giving it all as well in the series that he absolutely loves. Making his way there into what is turn number 12 and 13 in the Corvette C8R as he roars his way on through, and definitely a very tight set of corners there, and with the walls so close and no runoff areas really to boot, it really is about finding every millimetre you can to run close to opposite vertical walls. He comes across the line there, and well, he does improve there and will stay P3 on a 124.994. So we've still got a couple more laps to come from our drivers, including here Richard Hunter. The first time we've seen him in the top split, a lower strength for field we should point out for this week. A strength for field always 2,000 283, and we are seeing quite a low level of participation for the Belle Isle Park circuit this week. However, we're very grateful to all 13 drivers who have turned up here today in the United States of America, and we also do have there Ryan Middleton, another C8R enjoyer of the Corvettes, and well, we see him making his way on through the fountain section. Oh, goodness me, a nasty hit to the wall there, ping-ponging his way between the two barriers, and well, thankfully he'll be able to get out the car. That is going to upset his qualifying session, as we also welcome to the top split broadcast Marcus Seufer as he heads in towards the fountain section of the Porsche 911 RSR. And in terms of the car of choice for what has been this week, it does seem as though the Corvette has been the preferential pick, but it's also been a case where many drivers have commented, those who've competed this week, in the fact that it's all really about avoiding those barriers and also avoiding hitting the curbs too hard, because if you do hit the curbs quite aggressively, those inside curves, they can very quickly launch you out to the outside, and with no runoff area to notice, it does mean you very quickly find yourself making your way towards a barrier, as we do see Seufer pulling his way into the pit lane, so he's not too happy with the way qualifying's gone, and well, he'll be starting from what will be the back rows of the grid with no valid time set, as the only car out of the circuit right now in this closed qualifying session is Max Helmuth, as he makes his way on around. Then we have got quite a few new names here in this top split today. We have Max Helmuth is one of them. We did mention only moments ago Ryan Middleton, also Marcus Seufer and Richard Hunter. We also do have Henry Virumaki, and we also have Jesse Jameson Jr., who I can tell you I've typically seen him race in a bit of a slower class of cars, more so with Toyota GR86 Cup cars and also Radical SR8, but we're going to be seeing him racing in what will be the Corvette C8R GTE very shortly, but he's not on screen at the moment. This is Max Helmuth you're looking at, but we do have a mixture of names, and we've also got some returning big names, including, first and foremost, Samuel Lorenzo. But ladies and gentlemen, Samuel Lorenzo has taken pole position, it would seem, for what is this qualifying session, as we get a brief glitch and hitch on what is our broadcast overlay. But without further ado, let's take you through that grid as all drivers get ready to get onto their formation lap. So, for our top split broadcast for week 11 of the 2025 Season 1 GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT, brought to you on iRacing, it is Samuel Lorenzo who has taken pole position on 1 minute 24.039, and well, taking pole position there by the best part of 9/10 over Jordan Chamberlain, the American driver there, taking P2 and line up on that front row and being very closely matched by Michael Matthias, who just missed out on the front row by 400ths, if that. Oliver Kemp starts his day P4, and Kemp doing a great job there in qualifying, and he has been known to be quite fast in qualifying from what we've seen so far this season. He starts P4, and then on row number 3, it'll be Matthias Matthew Siegel, the German, just lined up alongside his fellow countryman, but ahead of Jörg Seefeld, who'll start P6, and Seefeld in the Porsche 911 RSR versus the Ferrari of Siegel. That's going to be an interesting combination there, because we have seen the Ferraris go quite strong, and many of you remember JB Masida, Imola, last time out, absolutely putting on a stellar result to be on the podium, in fact, runner-up at Imola. We then do see Max Helmuth, P7, ahead of Jesse Jameson Jr., the Photon Clan driver there from the United States of America, being followed up by Jonathan Palfreman, the Canadian, just ahead of Richard Hunter, and well, that's your last valid qualifying lap set by Richard Hunter, so he starts today P10. On row number 6, he'll be Marcus Seufer and Henry Virumaki, the Finnish driver there, just starting ahead of what will be Ryan Middleton, who starts his day P13. So 13 drivers on the grid, 10 with qualifying laps, and the rest falling into order. And well, speaking of falling into order, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing a partial formation lap today, and well, there is Samuel Lorenzo on the left of your picture, on the right is Jordan Chamberlain, and these two are now ready to go. But of course, it'll be Lorenzo who dictates when exactly we go green flag racing, assuming that he lets the safety car pull off first into the pit lane as the field makes its way through. I get the feeling we could definitely see some big fighting here from Chamberlain and Matthias, unless one of them can get the jump on Lorenzo. It's normally pretty hard to, though, given the fact that for Chamberlain, he's got to keep his eyes out for when his rival goes alongside him, and meanwhile, for Lorenzo, he dictates exactly when to go. But I think we're going to see some brilliant battling up and down the field, whichever way you look. But as our drivers make their way out of turn number 11 in towards 12, they're going down towards what is the final big notable corner combination of 12 and 13, and then it will be to our lime green and black Corvette C8R, being piloted by Samuel Lorenzo, to take us to the green flag racing. 45 minutes of racing are just around the corner, folks. It is time to go GTE Extreme here at Detroit as our drivers get themselves set. and he goes pretty much immediately as soon as the safety car's past the pit line. We are green flag racing here in Detroit, and San Lorenzo gets a brilliant start. Meanwhile, Chamberlain under pressure from Michael Matthias into turns 1 and 2. There's a little bit of run wide there for what was Georg Stiefeld a bit further back. Jonathan Palfman looking around the outside, coming out of 2, down towards 3 versus Jesse Jefferson Jr., but can't find his way through as all the drivers head onto the brakes. Matthias here still having to hold firm against Oliver Kemp. Kemp looks around the outside, but big lock up from Kemp, and Kemp goes sliding sideways, just avoids the rear of where's Jordan Chamberlain, and as a result, no foul, no hard foul play done. But the thing about that was in the fact that Oliver Kemp could have had a complete disaster there, but he gets it stopped just in time and brings it back together, but that puts him all the way down to P12. Well, he's definitely going to give us the spectacle now as he looks to try and chase his way back into the top 5 as a minimum here today. But in terms of other changes, well, Max Helmer having a brilliant start, 2 places gained since the starting procedure, and making his way now down the back straight up towards what will be the combination of turns 7 through to 11. And this is where the racing surface will go from its widest to its most narrowest very quickly as the oil drivers come down hard on the anchors here for the first time, trying to get those brakes and tyres warmed up. And well, we've seen what happens when you don't have warm tyres or brakes and you do get it wrong. There's a slight grind to the wall there for other drivers. Oh, goodness me, and that's Viramaki having a bit of a moment there. I think that's coming through what's turn 8 into 9, running against the wall, and Oliver Kemp meanwhile already up the inside there of Richard Hunter now to move into, in fact up the inside of Marcus Soifer I should say, to move into P10. His next target will be Hunter, and Hunter just up the road there in the black Porsche 911 RSR. But after what is one lap of racing, it's Samuel Lorenzo who leads by 1.4 seconds and growing already. Jordan Chamberlain in P2. And Michael Matthias P3, and Matthias Matthew Siegel P4. Then we do have Max Helmer P5 ahead of Jorg Stiefeld P6 by the best part of 1.5 seconds. Then it is Jesse Jefferson Jr. P7 putting in a good start to his race, having gained 1 place off the start. And there's Jonathan Palford P8 ahead of Richard Hunter. We have top 10 completed by Oliver Kemp. Here comes Kemp. He's looking to make it now in the P9. Looking up the inside there of Hunter. He doesn't want to get caught out on the brakes. And Hunter on the outside line decides, okay, well if you're going to look up the inside, the problem is you've got to brake earlier than me, and I know exactly how early you've got to brake. Was they roar their way in towards what will be at the right, left, right combination of turns 4 through to 6. Kemp here very close to the back of his rival as they bounce their way. You can see, look at the body language of the cars as a big, oh goodness me, a big moment there for Hunter into the barrier, and Kemp tapping the rear of him. And well, I think Kemp right now is going to be absolutely fuming at the fact he had nowhere to go, but that's how easy it is to make a mistake. Now, is Kemp wounded at this point? Well, I think there might be a little bit of damage to the front left, hopefully not too much to the suspension to warrant him to come on in. But Kemp right now, we looking to try to feel how the car feels over these bumps and indeed through the corners, and as he brings it back together and gets a sense of where the car is, he'll immediately go back on the attack here as he tries to look for a way to get under the skin of what is Hunter. Hunter there very sideways on the exit at turn at number 11, in towards 12 they go, and Kemp thinking about the move here decides not, it's an early break and a tap to the rear of Hunter's car, and Hunter into the barrier, and I think Kemp being caught out by the early braking of Hunter, and unfortunately Henry Viramaki has been caught up there in the subsequent instant, and well, a bit of carnage it would seem on turn number 12, and well, completely innocent moment there. The number of times I think we've all done it where a driver in front of us has just broken slightly earlier than we've expected, we tap the rear of them, but unfortunately the consequences being quite severe there in the fact that multiple drivers coming into the scene of the incident, and we'll get some analysis on that shortly. But still, as we stay with a live race now to lap number 3, well, Samuel Lorenzo continuing to charge away here, as meanwhile Jordan Chamberlain and trying to stay close. We're in half a second in terms of the previous lap time. Lorenzo 25.3 versus Chamberlain's 25.8, but Michael Matthias there also staying with him, and it does look as though right now we are starting to see a gradual spread of the field here as our drivers make their way down the back straight. But that does of course offer up what will be some quite entertaining racing later on tonight, in the fact that we are going to see certain cars evolve over the course of their opening stint, and that may give us an insight of what exactly is to come in the second stint of the race. We know that the Porsche 911 can be a little bit heavy on its tyres in terms of rear tyre degradation compared to the Corvette. The Corvette does seem to be the stronger of the cars so far this season with regards to its ability just to extract, I should say, plenty of life out the tyres. And then we do, of course, have the oddball here in the Ferrari 488 GTE, where if its tyres don't go beyond the ideal operating window, it is a very fast car out of the box. But it's all about car management in that Ferrari, and sometimes you've got to drive slowly in the first stint to get more out of it in the later stage of the race. And I think Siegel Hill will be definitely looking to do that and trying to channel a little bit of JB Masida from Imola in order to get this done. But we will see where he's able to get himself onto that podium as time trundles on. But as he heads down the back straight here, and in fact down what is the turn 3 to turn 4 straight, heading into the braking zone. All right, now Siegel just staying close and not trying to make a move so far. Oliver Kemp, meanwhile, under pressure here to try and make a move versus Powerful Man up the inside. And job for Powerful Man, not really offering up too much of a defence, but I think very wary of what's happened previously and also not wanted to really put up a fight against the driver he knows is a lot faster at this point in the race, and therefore letting it go. And Kemp now back up to P8 in a car that definitely has been a bit bruised and battered, but he's still trying to soldier on as best he can, and you can see there. And you can see on the front left bumper in particular, the front right from your pictures, we look at the car coming towards us, the fact there is a major scratch mark there on what is the front left corner of the bumper, and that's an indication of that contact with Richard Hunter earlier on in what was at turn number 12 in the end, and that unfortunate incident which has seen Hunter have to be taken to the pits. And speaking of Hunter's car, well, I believe it is still in the pit lane, and there it is being repaired at the moment, but his race has come to an abrupt halt. But meanwhile, coming up from the pit lane, Vactor drives out there, including Kemp, as he makes his way now in the chase of Jesse Jamison Jr., who's in the all-yellow C8R Corvette. Well, as the drivers roar the way around, we've got some replays to bring you with regards to some incidents earlier on, and we take a look back at firstly the incident of Oliver Kemp into turn number 3, under braking into the opening lap, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, and well, battling there in the run down for what was P3 at the time, fighting with Michael Matthias, and you'll see here just gets it a little bit too eager on the brakes. The car in the end lets go on the rear brakes first, the rear snaps loose, hits the barrier, and then subsequently goes the other way and fishtails, and well, the number 5 driver able to get himself back together. But subsequently after that, we did have a further incident for Jonathan Powerful Man on the open lap, and this, I believe, was in the run down towards the fountain at turn number 7, just takes a little bit of apex curb, and in fact that looks fine. Oh goodness me, and there was a big error, just a little bit too eager with the speed into turn number 8 and goes straight into the barrier, and well, hoping that the car's not too damaged. Well, he's still running out there, so that's a good sign, but Powerful Man there just getting a bit carried away as he looked for an opportunity. And then we did have the incident for Henry Viramaki, the flying Finn, as he made his way out of turn number 11 down towards 12 in the BMW M8, the sole BMW on the grid today, went on the brakes, and what exactly happened? Oh goodness me, no, that was a lap number 2, and that was the subsequent output of the contact between Kemp and Hunter, with Hunter in the barrier, and Viramaki then ended up having to take evasive action. Did very well to avoid that, so credit where it's due in the fact that Viramaki avoided what could have been a bit of a race-ending instant, and instead steering clear of it and steering clear of the danger that followed. But as our drivers continue on, and we're back to your live racing pictures, well, we do look back to your race leader as he makes his way underneath our gantry camera, and well, Sammy Lorenzo right now just absolutely tearing his way away as best he possibly can. And well, we have seen him put in some absolutely phenomenal performances. Many of you remember that performance, I do believe, at Road Atlanta, which was in the Ford GT, where he absolutely dominated the US circuit, and will right now look at the dominator another American circuit. As we look at Jordan Chamberlain, who's still trying to hold on to P2 at this time. Michael Matthias keeping him honest as they make the way out of 5 in towards 6. And well, right now as we ride aboard, looking back from the rear of the number 3, we do know that Matthias behind is no stranger to be in the position to give chase in that Corvette C8R. He's done that plenty of times, and many of you remember earlier on when we were at the Algarve circuit, where Matthias did put on a very strong performance, albeit things didn't quite work out entirely the way he wanted them to, because he had to start all the way from the back of the grid. But he did carve his way through the field gradually and picked up a great result. But as the drivers make the way on through, Chamberlain there just taking his time on the throttle through turn number 8 into 9. That's quite interesting. A little bit of a noticeable difference in the body language of the cars here. You can see Matthias being much more aggressive towards the apex, both machines being mid-engine rear-wheel drive, where the engine's located behind the driver, but uncommonly for this Porsche 911 RSR, not over the rear axle. It's one of the only Porsche 911s in racing existence where the engine's actually moved in front of, from the perspective of the front to the rear of the car, it's actually moved in front of the rear axle and placed behind the driver for the better weight distribution and to comply with GTE regulations, and therefore that's why we say that both cars mid-engine rear-wheel drive. But the point being there that Chamberlain really taking it easy on the car, not letting it be too pointed into the corners. Conversely, meanwhile, Matthias were really pointing that Corvette in, I think really trying to extract that tyre life advantage straight from the outset. Could that help him? Well, that is going to be what we're expected to see as time goes on. But as they head in towards turns 4, 5 and 6, with both drivers there pushing on through, Matthias there being quite clear of the walls. I think cognizant of the fact he doesn't want to make contact with them, as the Ferrari of Matthias Siegel still in the hunt in P4. But he's got Max Helmuth, who is falling away a little bit, and Helmuth there, I think last lap just 4 tenths slower by comparison, but he might be thinking about the bigger picture here in terms of just protecting the car and giving himself the opportunity to go on the attack later on in the race. As they make the way past our stationary cameraman and in towards turn number 7, well, we look to Oliver Kemp, who's getting a lot closer now to the back of Jesse Jameson Jr. And thinks about it there, thinks about going for the long lunge in towards the right-hander at turn number 7, decides against it, knowing the fact that coming from that far back, well, even if your rival's aware of you being there, you're absolutely expecting them to turn the steering wheel open. And as he comes through turns 8, 9, 10, and then into 11, you can see Jameson Jr. struggling for rotation of that Corvette. The car very unsettled there with the road surface change. You can see how the cars are just bouncing back and forth. And I can tell you one thing, we haven't fixed this camera well as he's up the inside into turn 12, and Kemp just about squeezes his way in and gets the move done. That's very bold from Oliver Kemp, but sometimes you've got to be bold and brave to get moves done, and does exactly that. As they head across the timeline and on to another lap they go. But Jesse Jameson Jr. there, I think, seeing it coming, but in the end did not expect it to come that rapidly at that location. But let's take a look back at that move, because that was a very brave move. And well, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. And in towards turn number 12 they went. Jameson Jr. there on the outside, kept on the inside, turns on in, and well, just gives enough space there, enough breathing room between the two of them. And Oliver Kemp not sitting around whatsoever. He is looking to make more and more progress as this day continues to wear on. But as they do, meanwhile, we've unfortunately had a car towed to the pits quite recently, ladies and gentlemen. That was on what was 2 laps ago. It was Ryan Middleton, and Middleton being involved in a nasty incident which has seen him retire from the race. And here's a replay to explain the story of what's happened to Middleton. And this was the number 13 driver into turns 1 and 2, right into left he went, and as he came through the left hand, oh my goodness, and that was a completely disastrous moment where the 13 bounced off the apex curve at turn number 2 into one barrier and in the passenger in his car, and that was his race said and done. And it was very unfortunate there for Middleton, and as a result it does mean we are now down to 12 runners, of which we do have still with Richard Hunter in the pit lane with repair work ongoing to his car, but we're hoping we will be able to see it get out onto circuit at some point, and indeed we'll still have the 12 runners all the way to the conclusion. But back with your live racing now, and as the racing continues on and all the drivers continue now to move deeper and deeper into this opening stint, they'll be now thinking a little bit more about strategy and exactly where they are in their respective race. And well, one driver in particular who'll be a little bit worried about where he is in this race right now is Jordan Chamberlain, in the fact that Matthias is staying right there with him. The gap oscillated between 6 tenths and a second over the course of the last couple of laps, and it might be the classic tug of war that you see in battles between 2 drivers here, where both drivers know they're on equal pace to each other. And of course Chamberlain does have one advantage over Matthias, which is he is the lead car, so he dictates the pace really of these two. Not to say that Matthias wouldn't pass him if he got close enough, but the idea being when you are the leader, the most important thing you want to do is maintain the lead, and to do that, what you need to do is make sure your rival's pace is not greater than yours. That's the first part, and then, if you can, extend the gap a little bit more. But if Chamberlain knows that he's matching the pace of Matthias quite comfortably, and therefore he's not overextending the performance of his machine, well, it may mean that in fact he's able to just turn things down a little bit and relax, and therefore give himself some better tyre life coming towards the end of the race. Because we do know that the compound that our drivers are running can last the full 45-minute distance. They don't normally change tyres in the pit lane. They only put a quick splash and dash of fuel in. But the idea is you want the tyres to really run the distance. And the number of times we have seen, particularly at Laguna Seca, where a number of drivers fell off the proverbial tyre cliff in the final 5 minutes because they just pushed so hard at such a high tyre degradation circuit. And the Detroit Belle Isle Park circuit, is it a high tyre degradation circuit? Arguably not. It's one of those circuits where consistency is rewarded, but you can very quickly hurt your tyres and brakes if you're aggressive with them. And there's a bit of an aggressive run there into turn 1 from Kemp versus Seafeld. A bit of a rub side by side as they made their way in, and Kemp looking all in. That was a P6. And well, young Seafeld, I don't think realised how quickly Kemp was going to try and make the move. And well, they've got away with it this time, but I can imagine there might be some brief words between the two of them after the race with regards to the fact that could have gone very, very differently. But Kemp right now is not pulling any punches here. He is coming out all swinging. We love to see it, so long as he keeps it relatively clean. And with the number 5 driver right now knowing his next target is 6 seconds up the road, in fact 6.5 seconds up the road, that'll be Helmuth, and he's going to chase down that Corvette as quickly as he can. He's got the pace to do so, but do keep in mind that right now in terms of average lap pace, he's 3/10 a lap faster than Helmuth, so therefore with a 6.5 second gap, you do the quick mathematics, and what I can tell you, it's going to take the best part, if he stays on that course, of what will be about 20 laps to get there. We'll get those laps in, no doubt about it, but it's a long journey now for Kemp if he wants to close that gap down and be on the attack. As he comes on around and in towards what will be at turn number 11 once again. Well, right now, Kemp's still pushing on as much as he possibly can, and from him, we look back to your race leader, Samuel Lorenzo, and Lorenzo continuing after what is a third of the race distance complete in terms of time, just to be able to extract that gap more and more as he heads in towards the right-hand return at number 3, and we're right now enjoying that Corvette, no doubt about it. From them, looking back to the battle for P2, well, Chamberlain and Matthias were getting a bit closer come what was the end of the last lap. The gap went down to 4 tenths, and I think we are naturally seeing Matthias extract a little bit more lap time now as we are going deeper into this opening stint, or as they roar their way through the right-hander of that turn number 4 into 5, I should say. Get my corner numbers correct this time, and roaring their way on around. Well, riding on board here with Michael Matthias as he looks to go on the offensive. Car absolutely making its way all the way through left, right and centre and doing everything he can in order to go on the attack. But right now, the number 2 driver here having to pick the right time to attack, and that's the problem as well. And the fact there's not many corners here where you can go for a brazen move up the inside. It's normally about putting pressure on and then just trying to find a good run out of turn 2, alternatively turn 6 to look up the inside into the heavy braking zones, because those are the 2 major straights, and with straights normally come good overtaking opportunities. But as you can see, Chamberlain, they're really struggling through turn number 10. Again, just mounting a lot of the curve. The Porsche seems to hold okay over the curves, but I think there's just a big amount of nervousness and twitchiness from Chamberlain, and well, that's not to put him down in any way, as he gets a very lovely run out of turns 12 into 13, sliding around in that Porsche 911 RSR and coming across that timeline very shortly. When Matthias right now, very different style of driving, albeit we're riding on board so we don't get the full picture, but definitely you can get a feel that right now Chamberlain is having to really push that Porsche to the limit in order to be able to get a lap time, whereas Matthias just seems to be sat there right now just enjoying and waiting. But as he heads on down in towards turn number 3, we do say hello there to OK Fahrenheit in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well, OK Fahrenheit, and had a fantastic Friday. And if not, hopefully if you've got any frowns, well, this broadcast will turn those frowns upside down and into a good old smile. But as Matthias makes his way out of 4 in towards 5, well, right now falling back a little bit. In fact, that gap now opening back up to 1.3 seconds, so perhaps they're just now trying to take it easy, perhaps pushing a little bit and seeing exactly how Chamberlain reacts, and then opting to back off the gas and then look for another opportunity. Because again, one thing he can do here, given the fact that our race leader has pulled such a sizable gap all the way off into the distance already, is it could be the situation whereby Matthias is now thinking, well, do I actually need to make the move on circuit, or can I do it in the pit lane? And we have seen the pit lane strategy sometimes rewards you with about 2 to 3 seconds of time. In fact, it can be more dependent on the circuit, how much fuel saving you have done, albeit around here at the Belle Isle Park circuit, something tells me fuel saving is going to be a little bit harder, because trying to stay glued to the back of your rival for the entirety of a lap is nowhere near easy. But I can tell you one thing as well, and this is getting very interesting, the fact that we have seen what is Siegel in the Ferrari 488 be closed up a little bit by Helmuth over the last lap, but also on top of that, the gap between Matthias and Siegel is closing as well. So it does look as though we might be seeing what is 2nd through to 5th naturally closed up, as Helmuth sets a personal best in the black and yellow Corvette behind Siegel on picture. Oh, a bit of a rub to the wall there for the Ferrari driver. You can see that by the dust coming off the wall as they make their way down towards that turn number 3. But right now, Siegel absolutely in a position whereby I think he feels as though there's a lot of pace in the car. In fact, he gained 4 tenths on Matthias on that previous lap. Let's bring up the time deltas if we can in the bottom center of your screen to see exactly how those lap times are evolving between the 2 of them. Well, in fact, I think we may be able to do so, and there we go. And there you can see, whilst Matthias was the faster driver through laps 8 through to 10, in fact, things have gone the other way now, and Siegel is in fact closing quite quickly and cutting down that gap that Matthias was able to open up. So perhaps it might be the situation whereby Siegel is now fancying his chances here of closing up a little bit more, albeit Helmuth is also staying with him, so therefore I think he finds himself caught between a rock and a hard place, and that is the fact that whilst he would like to push, he has got a Corvette driver who's also pushing quite hard behind him, and it's not easy when you've got to make that fine balancing act. As we look back from the rear of the Ferrari 488, and there you can see that Corvette just inching a little bit closer as they bounce their way out of turn number 11 in towards 12. Heading towards the braking zone here and through the double right, where it's all about just balancing that throttle pedal and then blasting. And of course, these GTE, or the GT Endurance machines, as it stands in for, I do believe, these cars don't run as much aero as the more renowned GT3 class machinery, which has replaced them in the likes of the World Endurance Championship Series. Of course, we do have what is the 1,812 kilometers of Qatar, I do believe, ongoing today, the first big endurance event of the year in the build-up to the 24 Hour of Le Mans later this year. These GT machines absolutely love for the fact that they lack a little bit of downforce compared to their GT3 counterparts, but they just have so much power to them. You are looking at the best part of what is 550 horsepower in these machines, if my numbers are correct, and therefore it does mean you've got a very, very aggressive powertrain in the car. Let very little downforce as well, so the car is very twitchy at the best of times, even when you do apply a lot of rear wing to it. But right now, these drivers absolutely deliver in terms of balancing their position in the cars around this Detroit circuit, and it goes to show. But as they head in towards what will be turn number 7 in towards that braking zone, right now Siegel just waiting for as long as he can to hold on here as they head in towards the fountain section. They're out of it. But looking back towards the back of the field, a driver who avoided a big near miss earlier on today was none other than Henry Viramaki, and as the Finnish driver makes his way down the back straight in the BMW M8, the sole front engine rear wheel drive drivetrain, indeed the sole BMW driver being run here today. Well, Viramaki not quite on the pace of his peers, but still enjoying a good run so far. And well, look at the chase down Marcus Swiffer if he can, albeit lapping in the 27s compared to most of his rivals in front of him, and lapping in the 26s. So it does seem as though, therefore, that Viramaki may not be on the pace. And we do know this BMW has been a bit of a hit-and-miss car this season. Some circuits, it has been absolutely monstrous at. Laguna Seca, in particular, was where the BMW was the car that just seemed to be in a class of its own, with the Ford GT and the Porsche being quite close to it. Also, at Road Atlanta, we saw the BMWs go very strongly. But here at Detroit, it doesn't seem to be as happy a car. And it's understandable, given the sheer volume of corners. You do want a car that's got plenty of rotation. And the BMW, not known for its rotation, more known for its acceleration and straight line speed, and also being a very stable car, which will help it over the bumps of Detroit. But beyond that, it is the car that is really having to punch against your weight in order to get the most out of it. But as we head towards the end of the 21st minute, we do look back up to the battle for P4 for a brief moment, and Siegel versus Helmer still staying within 6/10. They head in towards the braking zone for turn 7, and then looking up to the battle for P2, well, that gap did open up to 1.5 seconds between Chamberlain and Matthias. It's now back down to what it is 9/10 here as they make the way out of the right-hander of turn number 11, and the Porsche 911 driver right now, well, just trying to keep out of trouble as he makes his way over for a big slide there coming out of turn 12. Chamberlain definitely still pushing as much as he can as they come past the pit lane entry. Neither driver wants to peel on into the pits. It's understandable. They don't want to find themselves caught up in any traffic, or at least coming behind it and encountering traffic before their rivals come into the pits, because they'd lose a lot of time. But Chamberlain right now definitely just trying to keep it all together, and Matthias just watching and waiting. It's almost as if he's a tiger waiting to pounce at his prey. But from them, we do have coming into the pit lane, I believe that is Kemp coming in, and there you can see him off in the side top of your picture as he makes his way through it, and meanwhile making their way past in order to take track position. There goes Jesse Jones Jr., powerful man, and also I believe at Swiffer. But as we see Kemp coming towards his pit stall there, well, there'll be some repair work on the car, but also it'll be the fuel going in. And well, how long will he take to repair the car? Will he invest in that repair time, given the fact he does have some significant aero damage on the front left, as we're to believe? But I believe Kemp already leaving his pit box as we look out our Conte booth window, so he's not having any repair work done, and Kemp is just going to go racing and see what he can do. And well, he's going to come out into a clear track. You can see there on the track radar on the top right corner of your screen, and the fact that the number 11 position car is making its way down towards turn number 3 currently. So therefore, Kemp is in a happy place, and I think it will mean that he's got an opportunity to try and gain some more ground over the race distance. But as we get past the halfway points, we're now 22.5 minutes clear. We've still got another 22.5 to go, plus the final lap. When we do hit the 45-minute mark of the clock, well, you can see that Siegel's still trying to keep Helmut behind. And well, that gap 8/10, it builds back up here. And well, right now we will have to wait and see exactly when one of these two decides to pull the call and strategy. And well, if you're Siegel, do you really want to make the call here? And I get the feeling the answer is no, you don't. You want to wait for Helmut to make his pit stop, because the problem is in the fact that given that Kemp has come out in clear track, well, he's put himself what is the best part of 6 seconds behind Viramaki. Well, in fact, I believe the gap is more, in fact, it's 12 seconds. Let me get myself corrected there. Well, if you were to pit in this top group right now, there is a risk you could come out towards the bottom end of the top 10, and in doing so, potentially frustrate your race. And, well, you will lose out positions because you'll lose out time in having to pass drivers who have yet to pit. They're not on your race, but they're not necessarily going to give up the spaces to you because they're interested in battling their their own race. Speaking of some drivers battling their own race, let's come further down the order and look outside the top 5. And here we see Jonathan Powerman, who finds himself in a car that's definitely had a few bruises to it, but he's chasing after Jameson Jr. in the yellow Corvette in front. And meanwhile behind, that's Marcus Swiffer. Swiffer now closing up a little bit over the last couple of laps. The two Porsche drivers here getting ready to do battle. And Swiffer in a very colourful livery, much like Powerman, albeit different colorations, I must say, but two very nice liveries on the cars, and the livery designers should be very proud of themselves for it as they make their way down the back straight. But Swiffer here trying to stay in the wheel tracks of his fellow Porsche driver and just get a little bit closer over the distance. And Henry Viramaki, not quite in this battle 6 seconds back, has actually started matching the pace of these three drivers by Jameson Jr., Powerman and Swiffer. So are we suddenly seeing the BMW down in P10 starting to find its pace and starting to find a bit of a voice in this race? And could we see him potentially close up a little bit more? We'll have to wait and see. And you see both drivers there sliding loose coming out of turn number 11. It's lovely, that camera angle. It gives you a real sense of perspective of where the car's coming loose on the rear, but then suddenly it grips up with the traction of those rear tyres. That rear left tyre do so much work here in Detroit. And as they head up towards another lap, well, right now the gaps staying relatively stationary. Jameson Jr. 26.6. Meanwhile, Powerman at 26.3. Swiffer at 26.2. So these gaps are definitely coming down, as we do see the Corvette driver there making his way down towards what is turn number 3. Jameson Jr. in P7. He's not quite on the pace of Jörg Seefeld in front. Seefeld being 3/10 a lap faster previously, but right now for Jameson Jr. he's all about trying to keep it together as he makes his way in towards turn 5 and will through the left hand a bit wide there, and a bit of a lock up on the front brakes. I think Jameson Jr. making an unexpected error, and that is going to cost him some sizable time. As meanwhile, whilst all this has been playing out, I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, that we are back to 12 cars out on circuit, because Richard Hunter, after what has been the best part of 20 minutes of repairs on that Porsche after that nasty shunt at turn number 12, he has got it repaired. He's back out there. He may be 14 laps down on our leader, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that he's back out there and still driving, good on Richard Hunter for that, and he deserves a round of applause for that patience and that want to keep on racing. That is a racer's spirit as he heads on through there in the number 11 Porsche 911 RSR, and we look forward to seeing him at the checker flag as he heads down the back straight. Well, meanwhile, we come back to Jameson Jr., who has been closed up to by Powerman, and Powerman getting much closer now as they make the way out of 13 towards 14, through the double right, and upwards they'll go towards another lap. No driver coming into the pitch yet, and they're all staying out, and I think none of them want to lose this battle. And looking back from the rear of Jameson Jr.'s car, we can definitely see now those headlights of Powerman's car getting brighter and brighter and closer as they head up towards turn number 3. They get now 5.5 tenths of the run on the straight, but of course the braking zone will see them concertina and weave back and forth. It's the natural progression. Oh, goodness me, it's Powerman there, almost losing the rear, going through turn number 3, and not a notable moment, you would think, but notice the fact that he had a very tight exit line, and Powerman, I think, just been a little bit too aggressive. I think you can see the light in the distance, which is the bright yellow Corvette that he wants to take on, but the problem is now, when you get this close, you're starting to goad yourself to go faster, and he's got to be patient. He can't afford to make mistakes, because otherwise he will lose all the time he's gained, and he'll suddenly find himself on the back foot versus Swiffer as they head in towards the fountain section, but through the right and into the left they go. The nastiest corner sequence that you'll find on most street circuits in the world, well, previously in the world, of course, because this circuit was retired in 2023, in the fact that it's so tight on the entry into the fountain section, and afterwards it does open up a little bit, but not too easy in terms of overtaking opportunities here. We have seen a couple, as we do see there. Is that a slowdown being served by Marcus Swiffer? I don't think so. I think they're just a little bit of moment. We pulled the steering wheel to the right because the rear was letting go on the exit of turn 11, and therefore collecting the car back together. But meanwhile, whilst all that's been happening, we have had Jameson Jr. coming to the pit lane. Also, we have had coming to the pit lane what is Max Helmuth, who was running P5 at the time. So Helmuth is in, and there he is as he immediately now gets going again. Fuels back into the number 12, and Helmuth decides go, go, go. It's time, and well, completely understandable as he heads out of the pit lane exit. Past goes none other than Viramaki, and well, he tucks in behind Viramaki does Helmuth, and well, Oliver Kemp being what is the best part of about 10 seconds behind here. So Helmuth comes back out in P9 on track, but we believe that is effective P5 currently, but he will be aware of the fact that he has got Kemp absolutely charging. Flash of lights there for Helmuth. He's trying to send the signal to Viramaki, which is, look, if you're not pitting soon, I am going to close up behind you and I want you out my way because we're on different races. And, well, can Helmuth get a clean run here before his rivals come out the pit lane themselves? We'll have to see as Jameson Jr. still being serviced in the pit lane. It's a long stop for Jameson Jr. as I look at my content with window. I think they're putting the tyres on the car, and, well, as a result, Jameson Jr.'s race is going to go from good to bad to strategic disaster very quickly, because it's the one thing you don't want to do, because you'll lose out so much time unless he really feels as though those tyres aren't going to hold together. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But looking from Helmuth back to our race leader, we set a new fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, a 24.42 to the nearest what is 100th. Lorenzo is absolutely flying out there, 1 second faster practically compared to Jordan Shamlin. That gap up to 21 seconds, and I think Lorenzo at this point could right now pit and feel very comfortable as we'll come back out. As meanwhile, as I look at my content booth window, we've got Powerful Man coming into the pit lane, and also Viramaki. Helmuth is going to be released by both drivers, but the key point being that given that we have had, in fact, we still do have Jameson Jr. in the pit lane for a very long pit stop. I think some repair work's going on in the car, and as a result, that is going to release Powerful Man to chase after what will be that potential P6 finish, albeit you have to be aware of the fact that he will have Soifer chasing after him as we go deeper into the race distance. But as Lorenzo comes on past pit lane entry, he doesn't make his way in. He'll almost now be, in fact, he will be almost a lap ahead of a couple of drivers as he comes in towards turns 1 and 2 once more. But as he does so, we look to Jameson Jr. car parts up there, so whatever's going on, there's no tyre change. It's a car that's being repaired at the moment, so it's gone wrong for Jameson Jr. As Viramaki will take P10 on circuit off of Jameson Jr., but I suspect that will be potentially, an opportunity to make a little bit more progress before all is said and done. We'll be, in fact, interpreting the strategies there. I think P10 is where Viramaki now will be holding for the time being, unless anybody else has a major incident. So Viramaki definitely having a bit of a recovery race here after a difficult start, but still making that BMW work and looking to chase down the top 10 finish and roaring his way out of turn 5 in towards 6. But as he does so, Jorg Seefeld is into the pit lane. Here he comes on down pit lane entry, and in the wonderful Aqua Blue machine, heading on towards his pit stall very shortly. Well, where are the other drivers, I hear you ask? We've also got Soifer into the pit lane. Max Helmuth is the big name that we're wondering where he's going to come out in all of this. Well, I believe Helmuth will get ahead of Seefeld as he makes his way into turns 1 and 2. Seefeld is still in his pit box, so therefore Helmuth will very happily retake P5, albeit the top 4 have yet to pit, and that is going to be a big question mark as well in terms of where they will factor in, as Helmuth right now delivering some absolutely brilliant laps, in fact matching the pace of Matthias and also, Matthias, Matthew Siegel. And, well, off of this, we still do have a couple of pit stops to go, but one of those pit stops that is being served is Samuel Lorenzo, who's made his way into the pit lane, and as our race leader, is he going to lead every lap of this race? We'll have to wait and see whether any of the other drivers opt to come into the pit, but as he makes his way down pit row, we'll find out very shortly, because our P2 driver, John Shamblin's into the pits. So look at my commentary booth window, and so is, I believe, Michael Matthias stays out, so he decides he's not going to let Lorenzo lead every lap of the race, so he's going to try and do his best not to let him lead every lap of the race. And Michael Matthias goes one more, and I think this might be the sign of some fuel saving that Matthias has been doing earlier on, as there you see Lorenzo coming out the pit lane behind, but Matthias is at least going to lead one lap out on circuit before this race is handed back to Samuel Lorenzo, and he couldn't just let Lorenzo have every lap and pick up a Grand Slam, and well, that's credit to Matthias, but it's also demonstrated just how much fuel saving he's done as Jordan Shamblin leaves the pit lane. The Porsche 911 RSR driver back up to speed immediately, back out in P3, but 9, this is the big battle now for P2 on strategy between himself and Matthias. Matthew Siegel, meanwhile, has come out of the pit lane. He's in P4 in the Ferrari, and look at that, that's Max Helmuth. Helmuth is close, but not close enough to leapfrog him with regards to strategy, but the gap has come down compared to how they were on what's pit entry. The gap in pit entry was 8 tenths, so 2 tenths have been gained here by what is Max Helmuth over the course of what was pitting approximately 4 laps earlier than his Ferrari-based rival, but it's not been enough. But the one thing that Helmuth can try to do now is put on some very strong pressure on what is this outlap for Siegel, in the fact that while Siegel hasn't changed tyres, he has lost some tyre temperature. Meanwhile, Helmuth has got the tyre temperature back immediately, and he could go on the attack, but will he be able to find a spot to do so? Well, it's a better run there out of turn 6 initially for Siegel. This isn't looking good for Helmuth. He's going to have to be bold here if he wants to pull this off. As meanwhile, Michael Matthijs is into the pit lane from the lead. So that will release Samuel Lorenzo back into the lead this race. We're going to stay with this battle for P4 for a brief moment. We can see the cars there bouncing over that apex curve at turn number 6, through turn number 7, and through then into turns 8, 9, and then 10 and 11 very shortly. And Siegel there just trying to eke the car through the corners really right now, nursing that Ferrari around. He doesn't want to overheat the tyres, and I think there on his mind, what he's thinking about is the fact that if he overheats these tyres too soon after getting back out onto circuit, he's actually going to completely compromise what would be his ability to fend off the position. You see Helmuth there sliding loose and just tapping the exit wall of turn number 13. Helmuth is absolutely flying. You can feel the palpable frustration from Helmuth for the fact that he wasn't able to make the jump through the undercut, and by pushing so hard, well, in the end he's had a small tap stall. That won't have damaged the car. It was a love tap at best, but it's right now Max Helmuth has not had this workout. If he wants to make the move happen, he's going to have to do it on circuit, and another driver will have to make moves happen on circuit. Here's John Shamblin, but look who's come out behind him. Matthijs, who we thought might be trying to go a bit longer and do the fuel saving to jump ahead of Shamblin, where he was 1 second faster in the pit lane in total in terms of his stationary time added up with his transit time, but that wasn't enough, and Shamblin has in fact opened that gap up to 2 seconds in the Porsche 911 RSR, so therefore now the Corvette C8R of Matthijs will have to find a way to get it done on circuit, and that is a very difficult task. But more tasks as well. We've got a Porsche battle building here between Seufert and Palferman, as these two fighting over P8 with Seufert and Palferman there. And in fact, I believe these two have swapped places. I thought it was Palferman ahead of Seufert when we did originally see the pit stops kick off. So therefore Seufert has moved into P8, but can he hold on to it? That is going to be the challenge here as they make the way down the back straight. And will Palferman on paper, we would argue, is the faster driver of the two of them if you base it on qualifying pace. However, there is one big variable here that of course we need to consider, and that is Palferman is running a slightly damaged car. We know that it's got some aero damage on it, albeit he's not letting that stop him as he heads through turns 9 and 10 and in towards 11, through the left and into the right, hard on the brakes they go, and out of the right-hander, and you can see there the twitchiness of what is both cars, but Seufert in particular, as they come in towards the right-handers of 12 and 13, and just in front of them there, that is Jameson Jr., who is a lap down. He was in this battle with these two drivers earlier on, but the thing is he had a very long pit stop, a 3-minute stationary pit stop. I suspect they found an issue with the car which they had to resolve. He will have put some fresh tyres on the car most likely, but right now it does mean that when these guys come behind him, he won't be fighting for position. Instead, he's going to have to yield under blue flags, and Palferman there with a big sideways moment coming through turn 2. Well, he had to yield off the throttle, as otherwise that would end up in the barrier before we knew it. But he tried to chase down Seufert here, but these two now fighting over a P8 position. That has just naturally come to them. Oh my goodness, and Seufert there almost in the barrier on the one little patch of grass that we do have as they make their way through turn number 3 towards 4, 5 and 6, and Seufert getting away with it, but he won't get away with that other corners, and he's going to know that immediately. He's just used one of his 9 lives as he was a cat. Well, as they make their way out of turn number 6, Palferman just watched here and knowing that if he puts enough pressure on, he may be able to make this move happen with a little bit of magic. As they head up towards what will be turn number 7 this time out. The roar of that flat 6, absolutely adrenaline to the ears, coming in towards the left-hander of turn number 8. Right now, Palferman 9, there's still more to be done as Jameson Jr. steps aside and lets these two go, being on the lead lap versus being a lap down. It's always unfortunate, but Jameson Jr. showing great awareness there of the best place to let them go and not interfere in the battle, but it's a good run out of turn 11 for Palferman. He thinks about it, tries to get into Seufert's head, but Seufert not falling for it there as they make it through 12 and 13, and now onwards towards 14 they go. If Palferman wants it, this is going to be the place where he's going to go for it into turn 1. Remember, there will be a long run down towards turn number 3 on the exit of 1 and 2, and therefore Palferman doesn't think about it just yet. He wants to try and get a better run here through turn number 2. You see Seufert there much tighter to the inside, coming through the left-hander of the chicane sequence. Meanwhile, Palferman much more open in that approach, but the two of them get very similar exits, and therefore the gap stays static, but it's definitely a battle here that is building up towards a crescendo with 8 minutes left on the clock plus that final lap. It may not be the battle for the lead, but for these two, they'll feel like winners whoever comes away victorious in the battle between the two of them as they head in through turn number 5 and up towards 6. But as they come in towards the braking zone, well, right now, Seufert just absolutely sticking to his guns, which is he's got the track position. He just needs to take his natural racing line, get Palferman to be the one who pushes too hard and make mistakes. Well, I don't think Palferman's pushing hard enough to make mistakes quite just yet. I think that is where the difference between the two will come in as they head through turn 7 looking back from the rear of what is the leading portion of this fight, and the number 7 driver here through the left and up towards now the double left into right complex. This is the hard part. This is what puts the most strain on the brakes, and you as a driver, remember these GTs do not have ABS or anti-lock braking systems, so therefore you've got to do all the hard work on the brakes. You can't hammer the brake pedal, as otherwise you'll lock up the car and you'll send the car around. And like what we saw for Oliver Camp on the open lap coming down to turn 3, where cold brakes and just a little bit too much speed were an absolutely deadly combination. And right now Cypher here under that pressure as he comes from 14. Across the timeline they go. Gap still always 3/10 as they cross the line. Cypher just doing enough here to keep this gap wide enough not to encourage Powerful to think about a move, but you can definitely tell Jonathan in number 6 behind, he's thinking about it more and more as he gets a good exit here from turn number 2. He's thinking about it again really right now, trying to get into the head of Marcus Cypher, but Cypher not giving into it and just simply saying, yes, I've seen it all before, I'm not going to fall to your tricks, as they head through 4 and in towards 5. Well, right now these two running right on the edge through the what is the Belle Isle Park circuit of Detroit, and neither driver hitting the walls. They're absolutely running into the walls, there's no doubt about it, and that's the brilliance of street racing, in the fact that these two right now absolutely on the limit, and we love to see it as they head down towards turn number 7. But you can see Cypher here going defensive as much as possible. Powerman looks the outside in the end. Does he go for the switchback? No, he doesn't. It's too long a braking zone, and he won't want to risk locking up as they come out of the right hander of 7 in towards 8, 9 and 10. Through there they go, and as they do, we'll come back to them very shortly indeed. In fact, we're going to stay with them there as a full power was thinking about a move through was the run into 11. That would have been very brave if we'd gone for it. As they exit the right hander, will Powerful even closer this time as they power their way onwards towards what will be 12 and 13 as we now ride aboard from the roll cage. And Powerful and fighting at the steering wheel there, a little bit of dirt here, a little bit of twitch. Oh, goodness me! And a hit to the wall there for Cypher, but Powerful as well with a big twitchy moment coming through turn 13. The car now getting very loose. Those rear tyres are starting to find themselves getting excruciatingly hot. Both drivers absolutely throwing more at it lap after lap, but the thing is you can only go to 100%. Going beyond that and you're overexerting yourself, and I think right now both of them knowing they're hitting their limits, but it's going to be who falls first out of the two of them, and I wouldn't want to put a prediction on that, ladies and gentlemen, for the simple reason they're both putting on a stellar performance. We don't want either of them to fall by the wayside, and also we don't want to put the commentator's curse on them. But as they come out of turn 4 in towards 5, well, they stay as they are at the moment as they make their way up towards the back straight, and this time can Powerful get the run he needs here through the right hander, and the answer is no, because he grazes the exit wall. And that's going to cost him what is a 10th and a half as they make the way down. He will pick up the speed in the toe here, but Powerful there with that scratch to the wall, well, that is going to cost him the opportunity to look for a move here. Coming into the second half of the lap this time around. But as they come out of the left-hander and onwards towards the rest of the fountain sequence. Meanwhile, we look back to your race leader with 4 minutes to go here, and Samuel Lorenzo right now, it really is, to use the proverb, at this time a bit of a walk in the park for him, albeit I can assure you the fact that whilst he may be the fastest driver out there, to maintain this pace, it is not easy, and he will be working at the helm of that Corvette Seritar as hard as anybody else out there in order to maintain the lead on such a gap. But he'll be very happy how this is going with almost 30 seconds between him and P2's John Shamblin, and the Porsche 911 driver has lost a little bit of that gap he earned himself through strategy to Michael Matthias. It's now down from 2 seconds to what is 1.3. You can see Matthias is still trying to work on this as much as he can, and the lap times are now swinging in the favour of the Corvettes. It must be said, Shamblin that last lap at 25.92, Matthias at 25.59, so 3.5 tenths being gained there by Matthias, and I think we can bring up a time delta to show you how the lap times have oscillated, or at least the gap has oscillated between these two over the course of the last couple of laps, and there you go. And well, in fact, that's perhaps not the best indicator, because that does include what is the pit lane lap, so that's always going to make things a little bit erroneous, so therefore we will hide that for a brief moment. But the key point being in the fact that Matthias is gradually inching closer as they cross the line this time. Shamblin at 25.75, Matthias at 25.74. So in fact, Shamblin responding and Matthias not quite able to put another brilliant lap together like the previous one. So therefore, these two, I think, also just keeping each other in check at the moment. And well, may not be battling on circuit, but for them, this is definitely a mental battle right now. And it's who makes the first mistake, and that's where it could all end or start And meanwhile from them, well, we do have a look there coming in towards turn number 12, and that was Palfman thinking about it, and Cypher having to go defensive into 12 now. He's having to do that. Oh, goodness me, it's a tap to the wall there for Cypher, and well, I think that's going to offer the opportunity for Palfman to look for a move into turn 1. He thinks about it, but he doesn't go for it. Jonathan Palfman having the absolute patience of a saint, but surely at some point that patience has got to give way. He just knows that if he tries to go for it into 1, there's not a place to do so, but he gets a much better run this time out of turn number 2. The gap now down to 3 tenths before the braking zone, but it's just not enough. He just needs another tenth and he can think about going for it, but I get the feeling there's going to be fireworks between these two on the final lap as he looks to the outside, then to the inside through turn number 4. Can't find it, but a better run there versus Cypher. Cypher really struggling now. Deeper and deeper into this race distance we go, and the lead of these two Porsches, the number 7, and trying to hold on to P8, but runs wide there, coming out to the right-hander of turn number 6. Well, Palfman now surely has got the opportunity. Cypher's going to go defensive. Palfman gets in the side drive. There's contact between the two of them, and they're into the barrier. Goodness me, it's all gone so horribly wrong between both drivers, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if Cypher's going to have to tow to the pits, a heavily wounded car, and Palfman as well. He takes the escape road, and that's an immediate tow to the pits, and that's heartbreaking given the battle they had. We'll try and understand what exactly happened there shortly and get your replay of that as our race leader comes through the scene of the incident with a minute to go, so he will complete this lap and one more. But it's such a tragic end to the battle between Palfman and Cypher, and here's a quick replay to take a look at what exactly happened. Well, in fact, that's the aftermath of it, but can we get a bit of an earlier replay to explain the battle? And the answer is yes, we can. And I believe there, I think in the end, what's happened is just Palfman's trying to pin to the middle of the road Cypher, but Cypher has gradually come across, and the two have had a bit of a disagreement on their respective lines, and that's what's led to the contact between the two of them. But that's for the stewards to take a look at. Should it be reported? We're here in the content booth. We only get certain camera angles, whereas our stewards in the iRacing official series, well, of course, they do get all the camera angles and plenty more data to go with. But definitely an unfortunate one there, and well, that does mean a number of drivers will be promoted places, particularly Viramaki and also Jameson Jr. move up to P8 and P9 respectively. And well, I think for Richard Hunter, he won't be able to now unlap himself from those drivers and gain the places on them. He's up to P12 because he has got ahead of Middleton, who he was a couple of laps down on. But right now it does look as though Hunter will be finishing at P12 and Palfman and Cypher will be retaining P10 and P11 respectively. But meanwhile, the clock strikes 45 minutes, and you know what that means? It is time for what is our final lap of the race. We are on it, and Samuel Lorenzo is the focus of attention here for a brief moment, albeit he does have a very comfortable gap of always 31 seconds over his rivals. He makes way on through it. We look a little bit further back. I don't think we've got any other battles really to unfold now. The battle between Siegel and Helmuth staying firm with 7 attempts in the battle for P4, and it is Siegel who is ahead of none other than Max Helmuth. But as they head around on this final lap, meanwhile, we look to the man who leads the way. And as he comes on through, when it's turn number 13 for the final time today, the checker flag waves. And it is a day where Samuel Lorenzo takes victory at the Belle Isle Park circuit in the city of Detroit in the United States of America. What a drive there for the number 1 driver. A dominant drive in absolutely brilliant form. And Samuel Lorenzo conquering the streets of Detroit. No doubt about it in the Corvette C8R. But who will finish P2? Well, as we see at the battle for P2 here, Shamlin, who has opened that gap up to 2.5 seconds, in fact almost 3 seconds here, we makes his way for the last couple of quarters, and for John Shamlin, it's going to be the runner-up spot here as he flashes the lights. He knows that he's achieved something special with the runner-up spot. It's P2 to the Porsche driver, and then Michael Matthias will finish P3 there. He huffed and puffed, but he couldn't quite find a way to beat Shamlin to the checkered flag, but still on the podium. Well done to him. When it's going to be the battle for P4, and it's a drag race to line here, but as they coming through, I think it's going to be Ferrari that takes P4 in the capable hands of Matthias Matthew Siegel, who just holds off the charge of Max Helmuth. Helmuth will take P5 at the close there in an absolutely solid drive, but strategy and on-track pace, neither of them saw him bring down the fortitude of the Ferrari. And then it will be Oliver Kemp who comes home P6 in a great recovery drive after the drama of the opening laps. He will take P6 ahead of Jörg Seefeld. It'll be a Porsche P6, P7 with Seefeld at their 7th spot in the Leighton House machine. And then it will be Henry Viramaki, who's already finished his race, who finishes a lap down P8. We still do have a couple more drivers to finish their races. 2 laps down to Jesse Jameson Jr. And his debut in the top split broadcast, he takes P9 there. Congratulations to him. And then it will be, I believe, we'll look at that, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Hunter. And if you ever want somebody who has embodied the spirit, which is, you know what, you start a race, you finish a race, it's Richard Hunter, who may have finished 14 laps down, but he repaired the car and got back out there and finished P12. Well, congratulations to him. We have also had Jonathan Palfman and none other than Marcus Soifer finished the pit lane, P10 and P11 after that unfortunate incident. And we have the one retirement from Ryan Middleton. But as we do see Jemison Jr. doing his cool down lap here and making his way towards the pit lane, well, that concludes all of our racing here today at the Belle Isle Park circuit. And let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. And as we can see, after 45 minutes of intense racing action in the United States of America today for Week 11 in the top split broadcast for the 2025 Season 1 1900 GMT or UTC slot this fine Friday the 28th of February in the GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT on iRacing, Samuel Lorenzo leading the way in dominant fashion, the Corvette C8R, to take victory by 31.5 seconds over Jordan Shamblin. Shamblin taking home a deserved P2. He was made to work for it every step of the way and just managed to keep Michael Matthias at bay. Matthias taking the final spot on the podium at P3. From the two Americans, it was then the German driver Matthias Matthew Siegel finished P4 there. The Ferrari driver having a brilliant back and forth with Max Helmuth and just holding on by 1.5 tenths at the checker flag, where Helmuth rounded off the top 5. Then we did see Oliver Kemp P6 in his recovery drive, 2 seconds clear of Jörg Seefeld, who finished P7, with the top 10 being completed by Henri Viramaki, who finished a lap down there in the BMW M8 from Finland, but still P8, he'll be pleased with that. 2 laps down to Jonathan Palfman and also Marcus Soifer, and then Jesse Jemison Jr. as classified, in fact, P11, even though he finished on circuit P9, so I do wonder whether there's been a post-race penalty applied, but the Photon Clan driver there will take the best of the rest position, P11. We also did see the finish 14 laps down, but he still finished the race for Richard Hunter. Congratulations to him. And the unfortunate retirement for Ryan Middleton. It all ended in tears very early on, and Middleton 13th, but he did not finish. So 13 starters, 12 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, and 7 of them on the lead lap. And the leading man from Spain, Samuel Lorenzo, absolutely delivering today. But goodness me, what around. What a week of racing, and we still got more to come in a week's time, ladies and gentlemen, because whilst the streets of the city of Detroit fall silent, well, of course, it ends the racing today, but do make sure not to forget that we've got one more week of racing, and that is week 12 of 12 in season 1 of the 2025 calendar on iRacing, and we will be returning on Friday the 7th of March in our regular, what is 1900 GMT or UTC time slot for the top split broadcast, you guessed it, the Autodromo National Monza, and we will be wrapping up season 1 of the 2025 calendar in style at the infamous Italian Temple of Speed. But who will be the one who masters the need for speed? Who will be the master of what is Monza Turn 1? Well, for all that and more, you know what to do in a week's time. Tune in and find out. But until then, we have been the GTE Sprint Series by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain and Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. And remember to stay on track. Good night.